Hello, welcome to the United Democratic Volunteers of Alabama Blue School. And tonight we're going to be talking about collaborating with nonprofits with our presenter, the chair of Houston County, Miss Linda Turner.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here tonight. And this is going to be quick and easy because there's only 3 types of IRS nonprofits that we are concerned with. Each one of them have their distinct rules, though, when it comes to political activities and fundraising. Somebody just entered. Who was it?
Maribel Myers.
Okay. Don't think I know that person. Okay, well, I guess I'll start over. She introduced me. My name's Linda Turner. I'm the Houston County Chair and one of the original founders of UTACAL, which became UTAVAL. And we're here tonight to talk about collaborating with nonprofits. We have 3 specific IRS codes that we are concerned with when it comes to political activities. You're most familiar probably with the 501c3s because that's normally churches and social services that you will find. Okay? 501c4s is what I like to, it's kind of a bridge between some of the social service stuff and the political stuff. And then you have 527 PACs. And you also have political campaign committees, but we'll talk about those at the end of this a little bit and how we operate and work with them. Okay? The 501c3s are strictly prohibited from participating in political campaigns. Okay, so yes, separation of church and state, separation of other types of specific interest groups. I don't know, have they made the NRA a nonprofit yet? My guess is that it's coming if they haven't. Then you have 501c4s, and those can have political activity, but it cannot be their primary purpose. So that's where you see the League of Women Voters who do specific things related to policy and procedures and to politics in general, but they don't endorse candidates or give money specifically to candidates during an election. 527 PACs were specifically designed to influence elections. They can raise and spend unlimited funds to support or oppose a candidate. So it can be, yes, we support this guy, or no, we don't. Either way, you are trying to influence a campaign, an office, the candidate. PACs have a disclosure requirement. So in other words, they have to gain information to report to the FEC. 501c3s, 504s don't necessarily have to do those things. We also have to identify when we spend money, where did that expenditure go? And it has to be labeled on anything that we print or display. So those are some of the ways it works. Again, the 501c3 organizations have a prohibition from involving in campaign in any way. Okay? Again, might be something like United Way. They cannot oppose or support indirectly or directly candidates. And I think we've all seen lately that that's getting a little crossover. They are permitted to engage in what is considered nonpartisan, which is voter education, registration, and get out the vote efforts. So in the get out the vote efforts, if they advertised they were going to give Republicans and only Republicans rights to the polls, would that be a concern for any of us? Better question, would it violate the law? I'm going to say it probably would not violate it, but a case could be made that the law's intent was for that not to be the case. If I do it and I say I'm only going to give Democrats and I'm a 527 PAC, is there a problem then? No, because that's what I'm here for, to influence elections. So again, just the difference between the League of Women Voters giving rides and me giving rides, or our organizations giving rides. The 501c3 also has some restrictions on their advocacy. While they can take positions on public policies, they must avoid even the appearance of supporting or opposing a candidate. Hence the reason that your nonprofit organizations will oftentimes kind of shy away from us because they don't want to lose their status. So can the League of Women Voters pour money into Democratic governor campaign? They're a 501c4. So the answer is they should not be donating money to anyone's campaign. Okay. Can they involve themselves in gerrymandering court cases? Yes, because their mission statement is strictly about, improving the voting process in this country altogether. So they would be, they join those kinds of lawsuits and they partner with other nonprofits. Now, the 501c4 is where people can get into trouble. It can have some political actions and activities, but you have to be careful here. Okay? It cannot be their primary purpose. So a 501c4 organizations can have a social welfare purpose, let's say advocating for children, okay, or domestic violence. So any of those types of issues, you can form a 501c4. And then if you want to do some limited campaign stuff like lobbying for a specific issue, and domestic violence is the one that comes to mind because we have a really strong House of Ruth here. And they're always advocating for laws and funds and recognition. Okay. So social welfare focus is usually where these come in. Okay. An example of a permissible activity, like I said, is lobbying, issue advocacy, and some limited political campaign activity. Spending on a campaign, supporting or opposing a specific candidate, however, is still limited. You cannot do that. You get to the 527s, and again, we are here for the sole purpose of influencing elections. And as y'all can tell, we now have super PACs, an unlimited amount of money coming into the super PACs. You have hybrid PACs, and sometimes that can get a little confusing as well. But PACs generally required to disclose all their donors, all their expenditures to the FEC. And many of the 501c4s have less stringent requirements. In other words, they don't have to report like we do. We have to do every penny once we get past $100. So I don't know what a hybrid PAC is. I've read about this a lot, but the best thing I can kind of figure out is the NAACP might have a hybrid PAC, because they do contribute directly to candidates, and they engage in expenditures and different things like that. What the law says is that all accounting must be separate. So I guess you would have a bank account for when you were acting like a 501c, C4, or you would have the accounting for the 527 PAC. Yeah, I don't need to do that. Okay, so 527 political organizations collaborate with nonprofits. I'm sure everybody on this call has been to a nonprofit event and either assisted or in some way helped them out. So the best way we can collaborate with these is to always remember what their purpose is and what our purpose is, and honor those restrictions that are written in law. Our main purpose is selection, nomination, election, appointment, or defeat of candidates to the public offices. That's pretty strong language. So we do have to remember that when we're helping others, let them take the lead. Let them not necessarily ask you, but let always be respectful of their space, because they're the ones that has the most to lose. The 527s, we really don't have that much to lose. So we try to always respect their space. Again, the only thing they can't do, the other two, is advocate for or against a candidate. So just to kind of recap, the 501c3s, okay, are primarily focused on charitable, educational, or religious purposes. They have greater restrictions on their political activities. They cannot endorse or oppose a candidate. Now, but they can engage in lobbying and nonpartisan advocacy that is aligned with their mission statement. So League of Women Voters, for example, says voter education is part of their mission. Voter registration then becomes part of their mission. Okay? They also do policy analysis, and they provide education. And they also do the VRR, which is the voter rights restoration in Alabama right now. All of those things increase voter turnout. Voter turnout is a PAC-related county chair issue. The higher the turnout, the more likely we win seats. The lower the turnout. So these are areas that we can and should partner with the League of Women Voters on.
We have a question in the chat here, Linda.
Okay.
The IRS has said recently that churches can endorse candidates. Is this reasonable given their 501c3 rules?
Right now, they're doing whatever they want to. I mean, it's pretty, there doesn't appear to be a law in the books that they're not willing to break. Do I think we still need to tie them up in if we know about it, should we still tie them up in courts? Absolutely. I think we have to continue to challenge when we see the guardrails being taken down. And let's face it, most of the churches were already doing that anyway behind closed doors. So this has just been coming and getting us here. But again, I believe in the rule of law, and I believe that we can still put enough pressure on people. I wouldn't have a problem at all protesting a church. So I think we have to hold them accountable. Again, I don't know when departments started making laws. I really thought that was Congress's responsibility. I mean, I know I wrote a lot of policy in my days with the Federal Bureau of Prisons, but it was always, this is what the law says. Now, how do you get there? Not, oh, we don't want to do that, so we're going to write it this way. Okay. All right. So as long as the nonprofits collaborate and do not become entangled in any way through expenditures or funding or bank accounts or paying people, you can avoid the traps. Okay. So what are some nonprofits that collaborate with 527s? What are some of the issues that in Alabama that we've had? The 501(c)(3)s, the 501(c)(4)s, and 527s all kind of working and pushing in the same direction. Can anybody think of one?
You said, what are the issues with it?
I'm saying, yeah, what has Alabama recently fought where all three of these entities work together and didn't violate the law?
None that I can
The
recall.
redistricting of District 2. I think it's safe to say that, that was a collaboration with a lot of different nonprofits. Alabama Forward took the lead on it, but Alabama Forward was all of these other umbrella organizations like the League of Women Voters, the NAACP, Black Lives Matter, Alabama Arise. And of course, as Democrats, we supported it.
Was the Alabama State Party or any county parties officially part of that thing, or do we just support from afar?
We had members who were, like in my case, I'm a League of Women Voter member. So I worked with them. Unfortunately, our state party decided that they wanted to submit their own maps. I don't know if y'all knew that or not, but they decided they were going to not support the one that every other Democratic nonprofit supported. And so they had their own thing. But I was there during the hearings, and I was representing the Southeast Alabama League of Women Voters. So again, that's how sometimes it gets crossed over and things get put in that way. I don't know. Go ahead, Marcia, because I'm trying to think.
Just going to say, I think lawsuits are a way that all three can work together without crossing boundaries. If it's a issue around justice or fairness or voting rights, which is justice and fairness. So it seems like when that was a good lawsuit to describe how the three can work together. I think some of the lawsuits that are going on right now around voting rights are another example of, like in North Carolina and South Carolina, and I forget what, Arizona, where the three could work together and not cross any legal barriers and work together.
Correct. And move in a direction that accomplishes all of our missions statements. I think what's been going on with the Department of Education is another one. I mean, there are a lot of organizations coming together, teacher organizations, Democratic organizations, to push back as much as we can on this. And another example would be the Voting Rights Restoration Act, because there was an entire legal organization, I can't remember the name of it now, it's CLC though, you know, that kind of went, and TOPS jumped in, and the League of Women Voters jumped in, NAACP. So those are three really good examples of how we can work together and collaborate. Yeah,
I
Melanie.
think Susan has something to say.
I do. I don't know if any of you read the article about Catherine Robertson receiving $1 million from a 501c4 whose stated purpose is something other than political activity.
Yes.
And she's going to get away with it. I mean, we have these loopholes that, and because it's a 501c4, we don't know who the folks are that donated that money. And this is the same one that's been donating to Steve Marshall. Remember, he got in a little bit of trouble over that,
Yeah.
and the Supreme Court decided that, oh, he's okay with that, or they were okay with that. But this is crazy. I like your presentation so far. I just wanted to make mention that it all has to do with who's in the court systems right now, I guess, whether or not they're going to enforce this stuff.
Yes. And who's sitting in the state attorney's office? Because
Right.
it's no secret. I mean, he's been blatantly outspoken about tearing the League of Women Voters 501c4 and 3 away from them. And, you know, so again, we just have to be super vigilant. And like I said, these collaborations are great when they work and when everybody remembers the distinction between one and the other. So thank you.
I was talking with Dana Ellis today. And she, you know, she does a lot of voting rights restoration for League of Women Voters, but because of that, she's very careful about how she interacts with the Democratic Party, whether she sits on executive committees. She's a former president too of the Alabama League of Women Voters. And so she, you know, we all know Dana, she's very progressive. She's us, but she's careful because of her work with the League of Women Voters, doing voting rights restoration, which is so important to us, but it's a nonpartisan issue.
Absolutely.
I'm just an example. I was just giving that as an example.
Yeah, I look, I love the League of Women Voters. I've been a member since 1990, you know, of the national organization. So they've been around since 1922 and they're still hanging on. If you're not a member, join. That's what I say about that. Like I said, some really great people. I went to the convention 2 years ago. And if you want to see a smooth operation and how it's supposed to be done at the conferences, go to theirs, because we were in and out of there in the time they had for us, because most of the decisions had already been hashed out through video conferences. So, like I said, I was really impressed. Kathy Jones is someone that, yeah, I think we all ought to try and emulate. She's the president of that organization in Alabama. Okay. All right, so back on topic here a little bit. Permissible collaboration, when in doubt, ask. I mean, it's hard to get a direct answer sometimes from the people in the Secretary of State's office, but I've always been able to ascertain, even though they sometimes talk around it, what is my best course of action, so to speak. So, you know, when in doubt, ask. And there's people out there with all kind of experience that are willing to help you. Something that I didn't realize was that nonprofits can share, they can conduct research and share the analysis. I wasn't really aware of that until I read it a couple of days ago. So I think that's a really good thing. And an organization that does some of the best criminal justice work in Alabama is Appleseed. And their analysis and research data is impeccable. So if you ever want to use, you got to make your case for some criminal justice reform, go to their site, get your information from them. It will be spot on. I used to recommend .gov, but I don't recommend .gov anymore. I've already seen a major shift in the way the Federal Bureau of Prisons puts information out from when I was there 12 years ago. So we have to be careful of our sources, and we have to share this information because other people may not know that Appleseed's a good choice. And there's another one, I think it's called the Vera Institute. But they deal more with like the laws of it, and Appleseed deals more with like the actual incarceration and problems there. So, all right. So let's talk a minute about interpersonal issues, the visual of the interaction when we are working with nonprofits. Most of you know TOPS organization, and it was manned by Kenneth Glasgow, who has been in and out of jail for several different crimes. And he was, he's not anymore, he was the vice chair of the Alabama Democratic Conference, the Black Caucus here in Houston County. So in my initial efforts to involve, let's all play nice together, let's play in the same sandbox with Earl Jones and him, I went over and above to do that. And I was constantly being phoned or texted, Linda, you shouldn't be seen with them. I didn't understand it then at all. It was difficult working with them, but that was because I was a very strong, spirited, outspoken female more than anything else. But people really did think that I shouldn't associate with someone who has a national recognition for doing the great work for voting rights restoration. I mean, Kenny Glasgow is the person that pushed that in Alabama and to other states. So my answer to them was that an individual's personal life, while tragic, did not take away from the fact that he was going in the same direction on voter registration and education and voting rights that I was going in, and that I was trying to take Houston County Democratic Party in. Again, you will have all of this happening around you. I have found it more in the Democratic Party than I ever even found it in my work life. Now, there came a time when I did step back from him, and I told him why. He, as the vice chair of the ADC, who are Democrats, decided he was going to put on his public page that he was going to support the Libertarians. And I felt that that was a bridge too far. And I told him so. I said, Kenny, you can't be out here publicly supporting, on the one hand, Libertarians, and then when everybody knows that you have claimed for decades to be a Democrat. So for about 2 years, he and I didn't speak. That has been repaired lately, with both of us realizing that we could have handled it better. So for me, all the legal stuff is the easy stuff. Okay, knowing where that line is there is easy, but knowing how to navigate and maneuver in this public arena when you're a person who I do not give a rat's ass what anybody thinks about me. And I haven't my whole life. And one of the things that really has been difficult for me is to make that transition to, okay, I got to kind of care now, because I'm not representing me. I'm representing all the Houston County Democrats. And they come in every stripe. So again, that'll be the hardest part for anybody, I think. There's a couple of other organizations here. Let's just use the ones that do homeless care. We have the ARC, we have the Harbor, we have, what's the other one? Love and Action. These are mostly religious-based organizations. So we have done food drives for them. We have served the meals at these places. We have donated blankets and clothes and shoes. But out of all of those, there's only been one where everything seemed to click with us, and that was the Harbor. And so it really made me want to work with them at the exclusion of the other two. And I really had to step back and say, can't really do that, because this ain't about personality. This ain't about how I feel. This is about being visible and working with these organizations so that the people in the community see Democrats doing these things and not being, in their mind, discriminatory. So again, I hope you've kind of got an overview of what and why and how we work these things out. Understand and respect the legal limitations of each of their nonprofits. If you're working toward education, voter registration, voter engagement, civic duties, then, and you're going in the same direction, great. But just remember, you don't, as a 527, we don't have anything to lose. They have everything to lose. So always defer to them and how they're feeling. So now I'm going to open it up for questions and comments, and maybe you can tell me, someone can tell me a little bit about the organizations they have in their areas and what stumbling blocks you found. Anybody?
Yeah, go ahead, Melanie.
You going, Brian? You want me to? Me? Oh,
Yeah,
you?
Robin, go ahead, and then Brian can go.
Oh, you want me to go ahead?
Yes.
You know, I can't hear, so yeah, but I'm trying. I think the interesting thing that I found is when sometimes I ask groups that are both C3s and C4s to come and do an educational presentation, they come and they do the presentation, but there's some questions that don't sound to me like they're partisan, but they perceive as partisan, and then they won't answer it. So I don't have a good example that I can totally recall, but it had to do when we have had Alabama Rivers Alliance come and talk about clean water, basically, but also about coal ash pits. And the coal ash pit question made the speaker a little nervous.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly why, but that was just an interesting perspective, because of course Alabama Rivers Alliance advocates for safe disposal of coal ash. So I'm not sure why that was hard. That was hard for the speaker. I'm not sure, but that's just an example of, because they're a C3, but they have a C4 element, trying to figure out, I think the speaker was trying to figure out how she walks that line. So
Right.
it was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and they do have to walk that line. They truly do. And as I said, it's more important for us to just be respectful of where they want to draw it than anything else. So, Anybody else? I think Brian was trying to talk.
Yeah, I think in some cases down here, it's um the uneasiness or questions come into whenever a nonprofit organization is having some kind of event and they're inviting people to table at their events.
Yeah.
And then having the Democratic Party, the local county one, as a table there. Some nonprofits let us, some don't. It's just they don't. I can understand their point of view that they don't want to give the appearance that they're partisan. But from my opinion, my understanding, as long as other political parties are also there, or if they don't refuse them, or they're invited also, then it's not partisan anymore. But that's just
Exactly.
one example that I've come across here. Also, just organizing events together. They typically don't want to organize an event with a Democratic Party, the county one, or yeah, get out the votes, rallies, protests, stuff like that. Um, like I usually do those things anyway, but through my nonprofit hats. So I take off my Democratic hat and put on my C3 hats, kind of in a way. Although we're all Democrats, just about in these organizations. That's just one thing that I've noticed here also. There's kind of a very thin line of the discomfort that they have working together with the local county Democratic Party.
Yeah, we just recently had Growing Pains here working with the 50-51 group. In that it was it was more of an organic thing that happened because they didn't have any structure or leadership. And the person wanted to do protest, but had never done a protest. And then once she realized we were actually, it was coming together, she got panicky and didn't want to be in charge of it. And none of them wanted to go to the police station and, and let them know they were really anti-police. And I I finally had to step back and say, guys, I can't put my people out in your protest, okay, if we're not going to notify the police. Because that's the first safety step we have to cover. They have to know we're the peacekeepers. We're the peaceful people. And, if we don't go to them and they feel slighted or snubbed or unprepared, it's our fault. So that was a hard one. That's the first time I've had to really say, I won't participate if you refuse to do X, Y, or Z with a nonprofit. But I did do that. And it came together. They finally bit the bullet. And then they were all like, wow, that was really important that we tell the police. I'm like, yeah, I only been here 8 years. So,
Hey, Linda, what are some red flags to look for when assessing who to collaborate with?
ooh. So I have this really big name in our community down here that everybody has told me for 8 years is a hard worker and a great person, and I really ought to try and work with them. And I've made several attempts. It's an African-American woman, and nothing ever happened. So I thought, okay, maybe if my vice chair takes a stab at this, he'll have a better chance. Long story short, she agreed to meet us. And then we waited an hour and a half before her receptionist told us that she was at a doctor's appointment. So I guess I feel like I kind of wasted my time. So one of my red flags, I think now, is if someone is telling me that these people are really energetic and out here doing all these things, even if I see it, I have to wonder what their motivation is. Because people who want to move forward and grow are inclusive. So I wish that first 3 times I tried to meet with her and she never showed up or didn't do her thing, I should have just written it off. So just kind of look for those kind of things. Are they sincere? Will they meet you for coffee versus you having to go to them all the time? And then the other thing is, how committed are they? the 5051 group. There was a young lady in there who just was driving everybody crazy in our signal group with all these brilliant ideas. But don't ask her to do nothing. You know, and a lot of the stuff that she was saying, we had already been doing. You know, and they were saying, well, nobody's doing this. Well, yeah, we were doing voter registration. We're doing a lot of stuff. Okay. Just because you don't know about it doesn't mean those people aren't doing it. Anyway, and she finally kind of stepped out, which was probably the best decision. So not every collaboration is going to work the way you want it to. So just try to find the good ones and keep at it. Any more questions? Comments? I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. All right, well, Melanie, I think that's good for the thing here. If you want to maybe do a round robin and let people just speak or, you know, ask questions of other sorts, we'll try to answer those.
Yes, Marcia.
I just want to say thank you, Linda, because I think it's just a difficult road to walk sometimes with nonprofits, and having you raise the just the awareness for us to understand that nonprofits aren't us. I mean, we're a certain type of nonprofit, but we're not a 501c3 or a 501c4. And so our relationships with those groups is going to be different than it is like with one another, like two county parties.
Right.
And I appreciate just that, spreading the word of that, because it's easy not to understand why they don't want to work with us. That it's not that they hate Democrats, it's that they actually a lot of times are Democrats, and they're trying to make sure they preserve their C3 status. So
Yes, Richard.
I think, well, I happen to belong to a lot of nonprofit organizations, but I think
Yes,
the
you
problem
do.
is, I think the problem is that they err too much to one side. As long as you're not being partisan and you follow the rules and you don't exclude people and you have an open door policy, you're free to do a lot of things that some organizations will not do. And it's a slippery slope if you go too far, but there are things that some of these nonprofits should be doing for everybody and helping everybody. I know they don't want a lot of Republicans showing up at their events and things, but you know, if you're educating the people and you're not being partisan, there's a lot of things you can do. That's all I'm going to say on the subject.
There absolutely is a great deal of work that can be done when everybody cooperates. And I know everybody on here is going to cringe when I say this, but when someone calls me to help them with their absentee stuff, I don't ask if they're a Democrat or Republican. I just go help them. And I know I've helped some Republicans, okay? But for me, it's about turnout. At least they're engaged. And that's what I want. I want people engaged. And it gave me an opportunity then to talk to them about some of the down ballot people that I happen to know personally. So I was able to probably get them to vote for that one Democrat in the process. So again, if someone asks for help, I help. It's that simple. And I try not to get hung up on the partisan issue too much. And when people see me do it, when the other nonprofits here see me doing that, they then oftentimes come back to me. And that is actually how TOPS and that Kenny Glasgow thing, I wound up on his radio show recently, was simply because I just kept doing what I know is right. And it was able to make an effect. Any more hands? And I did see something, I think Marcia asked about the DART money. Yes, the DART money comes through the 501c4s because it's unlimited, unregulated, and they don't have to report it. And that's what most of your super PACs are. I can't believe we wound up with, what, 18 people on here a while ago? I saw the number change. So anyway, so very good. Word's getting out there. And again, this will be on tape on YouTube if anyone wants to watch it again or send it to somebody.
Does anybody have anything else to add? Yes, Richard.
Thank you, Linda. I thought it was a great presentation and I'm really glad you did it. So thank you very
Well,
much.
Thank you. You guys are always welcome for my 2 cents. And I do oftentimes have a different take, having worked with the prison system for so long. Whew,
Thank you, Linda. I enjoyed it.
no problem, Susan. I enjoy
Yes, thank you.
all of this kind of stuff.
I know you do.
So
Great job. Good night, all.
Thanks,
Good night.
Paul.
All right. Good night, y'all.
Good night.
thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
You do.
All right, Melanie, would you like to take us out?
Sure. Thank you, Linda. Our next Alabama Blue School will be Tuesday, August 9th, presented by Tabitha Eisner. And it's going to be an orientation for potential Alabama candidates and the people who recruit them. So that should be an interesting one, and spread the word. With that, good night, everybody.
Thank you.